Alright. So we got us some Melomel here, you know what I'm saying? This is the white cranberry mixed with the red cranberry juice, so there's no water in here per se. It's just honey mixed with ocean spray cranberry juice. So, and I thought that would be a good idea rather than juice and stuff. I ain't juicing nothing, you know what I'm saying? Whoa! Calm down. So let's, I'm just gonna top this glass up a little bit here, and we'll listen to some Mead music, you know what I'm saying? Alright, so this is one of the most ancient alcohols that the scientists figure we brewed or whatever. So it's just honey and water, 3 pounds of honey per gallon of water for quite dry mead, or 4 pounds of honey for a sweeter mead. So you can go 3.5, whatever you think your preference would be. Do some experimenting. I dumped cranberry juice in here, so I wasn't quite sure how much sugar was in the cranberry juice. Probably not a whole lot, but I just put my hydrometer, let it go to 20% potential alcohol. And I'll tell you, that's quite sweet mead. And I even finished this off with turbo yeast, which is basically for making moonshine, up to about 17-18%, as rapidly as possible. So after I let this go for a very long time with a typical champagne yeast from Lavin or Lalvin or whatever it's called for 99 cents, I bought some turbo yeast because it was still quite sweet, and this is almost a year old. That's about right. You want to let your mead age about a year. And I love brewing mead because it's so easy. It's the easiest thing. You just need some of these, really, and you can do them in bigger vessels if you want. Just these with an airlock, you know, one of these. Some honey. You don't, you can use bleach for sterilizer, but there's so much sugar in here. I mean, not much is gonna live through that anyway. It doesn't oxidize very easily, not like wine or beer or whatever. So you're really taking the easy road with mead. So. Let's taste this out a little bit. It smells a bit rubbery. The mead always smells a bit rubbery to me. Like real rubber, like slingshot band rubber kind of stuff. You know, tying off or... No, that's not really funny, I guess. Wow, there's a lot of sweetness to this one. This is the sweetest I've ever made it, but it is still drinkable. Imagine you get quite the headache though if you had too much of this. And then there's a lot of sugar in here, and I'm not doing too well after Christmas. I gotta lay off the sugar, man. Maybe I'll put this away till summer. You know what I mean? But yeah, amazingly, one of the flavors I do pick up off of mead is nectar, because a lot of the sugar gets fermented out of the honey, and you're left behind this nectar flavor. They kind of, you know, when you go through a flower garden, you kind of get that part of the scent. That is definitely present within this. And you don't notice this. You notice a bit with honey. Once you take all that sugar out of the equation, you really notice the nectar flavors and stuff. So yes, this is the nectar of the gods. All right, so that answers that question. Um, you are getting honey flavors out of it. I do notice a lot of similarities between this and sherry, like a cream sherry. Not that I've drank a lot of sherry, but I've noticed that there's a few homebrew things and phenomena that's happened with my experimenting, mostly with weird wine type fruit beverages and stuff. Um, they kind of end up um, tasting like sherry. And some of them are like in a bad way, and some of them in a good way. And mead always comes off to me a bit like sherry in a good way. Don't ask me why. I'm guessing that this is at least around 17% alcohol, and you can drink it like it's not. It doesn't bother you like even some beers at less than 7% are going to carry more booziness than this at 17. But it still is hard to drink in large quantities because it is so rich and stuff. It drinks like a wine, but it's really not packing much booze for being what I would assume to be 16-17% alcohol. No problem. It's like sake, but it drinks way easier than sake. Way easier than sake. Like sake is a smooth. I like sake, but this goes down much easier than sake. So I imagine you could get pretty smashed off this. The first time I brewed mead, I was probably like maybe 20. I didn't actually brew it. I gave it to a friend who was a brewer. I said, "Hey man, look at all this honey," because I had asked questions about fermenting honey, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's been done for ages. Yeah, we do that all the time." They said. So I gave them this bucket of honey. It was from this beekeeper out of town, and they brewed this mead, and it was a bit drier than this, and it just blew my mind. And everyone I had tasted, they were like, "Oh, that's really good shit." And it is phenomenal as a rate, as a beverage. It's almost impossible to screw this shit up if from a home brewer standpoint. So I really do like to plug mead for the beginner brewer, because I hate to see people go to low quality wine kits or malt extract kits for beer and stuff when you can just go pick up a thing of liquid honey for the same price as a can of malt extract, at least here anyway. And you can get a fair amount of wine at 18% rather than 5% beer out of it. So if you do the math, you're not paying much more, and it's just as easy as actually it's easier than brewing malt extract beer, because really the bottling and the priming and all that stuff is out of the equation, and you should always be sanitary, but I don't think that much is going to survive in a vat full of 17% alcohol and sugar. I mean, something might. There's probably a few things out there that could survive in there, but I'm not too worried about it. But I've never really, that I can think of. You can make mead too dry, but you can still salvage it by adding, again, honey or sugar to re-sweeten it. Because I had a friend who brewed it a bit too dry, and it was pretty awful. As any beverage that you brew that it's too dry, and I think all the straight meads that I've done have turned out, but I'm gonna release a top secret shit here. Oh, I shouldn't. It's right beside me at all times. But you can do shit with mead, man. You know what I mean? Like I got shit on the go, but subscribe and I'll give you the recipe, motherfuckers. Yeah, that's right. All right. Damn. Yeah, quite sherry-like, but a little bit lighter, a little more nectar, a little more like dandelion flower, without any bitterness, hardly at all. There's no bitterness in here. yeah, I'm just reviewing this mead. It's going on 10 minutes. I'm pretty crude about everything that I do, especially brewing in a way. And I think that I'm more paying attention to like bigger principles, like being sanitary. I'm very thorough with that, and basically like hydrometer. I don't get too scientific on the hydrometer. I hate to see people get, because maybe some people think like me, some people think like other people. Like everyone has their own way of navigating through situations, but I just look at the potential alcohol reading on a hydrometer. And if you want to get technical, and everyone's like, well, what was the number on that? Well, fuck. It says 16 fucking percent. Turn your hydrometer over. The number's right there. You can always go back and look at it, for fuck's sakes. You don't have to write down 10,000 fucking numbers. And fuck, you got the whatever the potential is on there. Those other numbers are going to fucking correspond around the side of the thing. Not fucking rocket science. I don't. I mean, it's a simple tool. It's like a fucking ruler. It doesn't stretch and bend. It's always the same. So don't fucking worry about shit that you don't need to worry about. Like, fucking, just keep it clean. Fucking put 3.5 pounds of honey in a fucking jug of water, and you're going to have an excellent beverage that's going to outperform 90% of the wine in the fucking wine store. Hands down. This shit right here, I review a lot of wine, so check that out. I mean, there are not too many wines that I would take over this mead. I mean, a good Pinot Noir, I would like to have, because it is what it is. But I mean, quality-wise, about 70% of the wines in the store are shit. They're shit, and they're not good. And that's why I like to review wine, because there is so much shit out there. And it helps to have proper resources, because the people in the liquor stores generally don't know shit, and they just tell you, oh, get this fucking Lindham's, and you get this. They tell you to get this awful shit, So I'm just here to I want people to have a good experience with the brewing and with their wines and their beers and stuff. So basically, this mead here has a wine rate out of 100. Normally Spinal Tap shit out of 11, but for wines I do out of 100. So this out of 100 is an unbiased rate, even though it's mine. Maybe I'll have someone else review it later. For me, it's about 86 points, and that's just because it's just a little too sweet. And this is the first time experimenting just with dumping ocean spray in there. I think that if I went down to about 18% on the hydrometer, which I wanted it sweet, so I thought I'd go above what I thought it would ferment to. But there's still just a little bit too much residual sweetness in here. And in that case, it would go well above a 90-point beverage in comparison with wine. No problem. Not nearly as complex as wine. But it's a simple, good beverage, and I think that everybody should, who's into homebrewing, should give mead a shot, because it's going to do wonders for your booze stash, and it'll get you snapped. Beerzerker, I'm out, yeah!